Can you share how plastics are damaging the planet and maybe share a few examples?
Absolutely, Tiffany. More than 90% of our plastics are not currently being recycled. So that ends up in landfills, it ends up in these gyres, as I've mentioned, in the ocean, and all areas that we don't need plastics as a forever chemical. Marine animals, as I've mentioned, as well as marine plants, are currently under a huge threat. And humans are consuming plastics, not directly consuming, but we consume it through our clothing, plastic bags, coffee cups, plastic water bottles, the list goes on and on. And due to this increased consumption in the demand for plastic, uh, this ultimately ends up in our food and water supply and creates a massive health concern for the planet. I mentioned earlier these garbage patches that exist. There are currently five major garbage patches, one in the North Atlantic, South Atlantic, this North Pacific, South Pacific, as well as the Indian Ocean. And I'll highlight one example. The North Pacific gyre is roughly the size of Alaska, which is mega big, or three times the size of France. So this gyre lies between Hawaii and California, and these gyres are ultimately rotating ocean currents or big whirlpools that just kind of swirls this garbage around the planet and is ultimately being broken down and consumed by ocean life.
Wow. And I'm sure there's a lot of technologies involved in measuring the size and scope of that. And who knows, satellite IoT may be involved as well as several other technologies, I would assume. But let's talk about the big picture, Toby. What happens if we don't change and make a shift in the way that we use plastics?
Absolutely. Plastic pollution can alter habitats and natural processes of nature evolving. So it slows that process down, it alters it. It reduces our ecosystem's ability to adapt to climate change. Uh, it directly affects our livelihoods, our food production, as well as our social well being. So ultimately, if we do not make the required changes, and reduction, it will continue to escalate human health issues. Uh, it will continue to hurt wildlife as well as our oxygen levels, as well as our food supplies that are in peril due to that. Uh, as I've mentioned, plastic pollution, it alters habitats, uh, the natural process, and reduces our ecosystem's ability to adapt naturally to climate change, which is a forefront matter that's been discussed globally. And we feel the need that it needs to be attacked and it needs to be addressed with a sense of urgency.
Thank you very much, Toby. And you shared that we need to rethink our consumption of plastics. Can you tell us more about that?
Ultimately, we must unite as a globe and stand together towards a solution to reduce plastic waste and pollution the way it's currently forthcoming and going around the globe. So, in our opinion, all governments, domestic and foreign, manufacturers, retailers, and consumers like us need to rethink and be made aware of the urgency of doing something versus doing absolutely nothing.
Thank you, Toby. And how can individuals make a difference?
You know, I have this motto: be the change. Each one of us have the responsibility to make a difference. It starts at our age, it starts at our children's age. Everybody has to do that contribution. A few examples of how I would like to bring it across in layman's terms: when you go to a store, a coffee shop, try and take your own cup. Uh, Try to reduce your consumption of plastic bottled water. Take your own bottle. Avoid excessive food packaging, which obviously causes to excessive contribution to our landfills. Say no to plastic cutlery. I know it's not easy to eat by hand, but or take your own cutlery where you can. but plastic cutlery is also a big culprit. And then carrying reusable shopping bags, I often find, is a great measure to reduce that single-use plastic. Also clothing. Find a way to extend the lifespan of your clothing. Reuse it, recycle it, donate it. So folks can have a longer usage out of the clothing that we produce globally. And another conclusion that I always stand by is if you live by these four mottos or stances, reduce, reuse, recycle, and refuse. Those are the four main things that if we constantly are aware of how we can contribute and help our planet, those four aspects, I'll repeat them: reduce, reuse, recycle, and refuse, are, in my opinion, very strong, four very strong words that we can contribute to our society and help folks. So, in conclusion, each one of us have that responsibility to see how we can alleviate this matter and issue.